just going to go and jump on in there.
All right. Are you ready to record? Let's see.
Touch heads.
That's cute. We're so cute.
Super cute. I smell real funky. And
You don't.
My hair has, well, it's because I put deodorant on and I did all the things.
Wyatt told me yesterday, he gave me a hug and he goes, you smell like October.
Oh man, that's like the best compliment ever.
You could tell me I'm beautiful till the cows come home, but telling me I smell like October.
The only thing better than that would be like you smell like Christmas.
Yes.
Cookies and cinnamon.
I know, right? I know. He told me I smelled like October. I said
like pumpkins and gourds.
I don't want to smell like a gourd. Pumpkin spice maybe, but not a gourd.
Pumpkin spice.
Hey y'all, we're recording.
Yes.
Yes, we're recording. Hey, welcome back to the Live Messy podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Sarah.
And we're here talking about my son saying I smell like October.
I told her the only better compliment of that would be telling me that I smelled like Christmas. Mm-hmm. Because then that's like cookies and cinnamon and
like comfort Jesus. And snuggles.
And Jesus and the resurrection. And it's just
like he told me that. I was like, you just made my day, kid.
Oh.
So I think we're both at a moment. I think school and life has caught up to us. Okay, so we all talk about December and the holidays being crazy. And then we got really good about talking about May for moms being crazy.
Yes.
Now we have to have a conversation about September.
Can we just talk about it's crazy all the time? I think we should talk more about when is it not?
It is.
April? No.
February? February is kind of boring.
Yeah. February?
Yeah.
November's not bad. Well, no, then it's just
November's cozy and snuggly and yummy scents. But like September is all the meetings and routines and paperwork and signage and adaptions. And
I just fell asleep. I'm so sorry. I just fell asleep. It was too much.
It's a lot.
No, my world never gets right. So I'm thinking, that's a perfect segue. These dogs are nuts. Segue to what we're talking about today.
Yes.
You know why?
That's true.
Because my life, I'm just going to be real with you. It's never right. There's never like this. Things are just nice and even, cute.
Right? And do you feel like you're like trying to chase the right?
I stopped chasing the right because I have to do for what is right for right now.
Yeah.
Because if I try to chase the right, I'll probably want to put a pen in my eye. Like literally, like a pen in my eye. Because it's impossible. It's for my world, it's impossible. And she's leaving me.
I'm leaving because I got to go get a pen and paper.
You so my world,
and I need to write it
down. Oh, she's got to write. Get your pens and papers, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a big one. Because this is about victim versus victorious. This is what
ma'am.
We are in I don't want to call it a self-help series. What is it called?
Feel the feelings or all the feels.
All the
feeling
feels.
It.
Feeling it series.
We're going to talk about our emotions and feelings. It's going to be good. Oh my gosh. Get on the couch.
I really hope one of us cries.
I do too.
I feel like I would really connect with you guys. I've cried every single day. Did I cry yesterday?
I don't remember getting a crying Marco yesterday. I think yesterday was good.
Didn't cry yesterday.
I think yesterday was good.
So, victim versus victorious. So, we're talking about when is it ever steady? Like, that for me, it never is. Like, even just coming here, sitting down, I just got a call from the school. Well,
and we both got calls
from the school, but mine's coming home. At least I gave her her own car.
Not the kid, Jesus. The nurse. Let's clarify. Allie is not driving herself home from school today.
I wouldn't even do it. It would just sit there.
Right.
She would just melt down to the pedals.
Yes, she would idle. And then I got a text message that mine has a headache. So it's just been a day, and I think...
My client yesterday, her daughter had a headache too. And so I think something's going around. But we're talking about... We could sit in this and be like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. Why does this happen to me and me? And it's not happening to you.
It's happening to all of us.
Yeah.
We can really, so Sarah asked me, well, what part of victimhood are we going to talk about? And I'm like, all of it?
I'm like, oh crap, is it that? Do we have enough time?
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
Well, I guess what I'm going to do is generalize, which is never a good thing, but I'm just going to generalize anyways, because this is our podcast and we can do what we want with it.
That's true. I'm not going to generalize. I'm going to get very specific.
Well, I'll get specific about my life, but in general, we can play victim. We can sit in a victim mentality for all capacities, and we just talked about sitting in the victim mentality of motherhood.
Yeah.
It's all too much and it's too hard, and my kids are harder than your kids, and I have it harder than you have it.
That is rampant, by the way. I have girlfriends that are like, when is it gonna, you know what? And
you don't even know. You don't know how it is.
And I've been, so if they hear this, like, oh my gosh, she's talking about me. But we both have done this. So it's not just her. It's a lot of my friends are like,
what are we chewing on?
Why do they have it so easy?
Yeah.
When we look through that little bitty tiny window, we're like, well, crap, I'm doing it wrong because look how much easier it is over there. And
or I've got a tougher road. Like you could easily play the victim
all day
mentality
long.
with Allison.
I got that
for
card.
sure.
I could use that anytime.
Well, and
but I don't.
it's all about. So it's our our perception of that mom and her life when we don't really know. I just saw a funny thing. I don't know who was saying it, but they were basically saying like the mom who goes and looks great and doesn't, and the kids are great and everything's great. But she's crying in the shower too.
Yes, she is. Oh, I think I saw the same thing. It's true.
Was it? Yeah.
We all cry in the shower.
Yeah.
And if somebody doesn't, they're liars.
Right.
They're just lying to you
Right.
because they're crying about something else.
But I think we stay in the victim mentality because those places feel safe, even though we know they're not good for us and they're not necessarily comfortable. They're safe because they're known.
They're known. Yeah.
And it's easier to stay there than to deal with the crap.
Well, and also if you deal with the crap, sometimes it's about you. And it's not
yes,
about, and it's
like
not
you're
about
looking
them.
at you're looking at the
You're like,
reflection.
why won't this work and this work and why won't my kids? Well, maybe because you're not doing it right. Maybe you need to do something.
Do you need
different.
a pillow
For what? My back?
for your back?
Yeah, sure. I'll take a pillow.
It's nice and poofy.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Girlfriend.
Sometimes it requires us to have to look inward and be like, oh, that's not working because of something that I'm doing.
Yes.
Or something I don't want to do.
Yeah. And it's always easier to blame the other guy.
Super easy. It's always
think about your kids and even you as a sibling. I look at my childhood and it was always my sister's fault. It's never my fault.
I literally said this week, I'm like, you can only tell people to F off so many times before you realize you might be the problem. I literally said that this week.
That is a truth. That is a spoken truth.
That
right
is
there.
truth right there. If
It's
you're
true.
having to tell someone, you're like, F off, forget you, whatever,
Yeah.
then it might be you.
It might.
and
Or
that
if
is
you're
me.
seeing people leaving your life constantly, it
might be you. And girl, that has been me this entire week. Like the past 2 weeks, I'm like, because having nursing staff, I mean, there's high turnover. Apparently there is. I've never had high turnover before.
Right.
And I flushed all this out. It's kind of a rabbit hole. But I flushed all this out with my husband. And he's like, why? He's like, they just work here. He's like, what is the problem? Why do you cry every day? What is the problem? What is happening? When one is leaving. And I'm like, because they don't just work here.
Yeah.
They're not my yard guy. They're not my housekeeper.
No.
They don't just work there. They
No.
hang out with me. They hang out with my kids. They hang out with my
Yeah.
my boys, and they know when they're gone. And my daughter knows when they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, so it's not just somebody that works here.
Yeah.
And I said, and I get attached, and it's a rejection. To me, it
It's a
feels
personal
like
rejection.
it's a person. Like, why would they? And when you have a special needs kid, any mom, even my typical kids, you just want your kids to be loved, and you just want people to see them the way that you see them. And when someone comes in your home, works with your family, and it's like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. You kind of, it's hard not to take that personal.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I literally have to give myself space to cry and let that go, and I just have to cry it out.
Yeah,
because
but
there's
you
no way
could
around
sit
it.
there. You could sit in that victim mentality of, well, these nurses keep leaving and they're just wronging me because now my schedule is, it brings on a lot of stress to you when there's a high turnover rate with nurses, and you could easily slip into that victim mentality of how these people are wronging you.
Well, if I were to think about it like that, I'd be pissed all the time.
And do you want to live that way? But
No,
that's
I
that's what
don't.
a lot of us do. A lot of us stay in the places of victim mentality because it's safe.
Well,
Because
and
it's easier to say it's all their fault. It's not me dealing with rejection.
Because then you'd have to be held accountable for making the change. And that's what a lot of people don't want to
Yes.
do. They know the change that they have to make to make their lives the way that they
Yes.
want it, or to change something in their life, and they don't want to do that. So
No, nobody wants accountability. That's probably the worst thing that you could tell someone is that I'm going to hold you accountable for
no
that.
kidding. So I will tell you, this is you were right. Lord was speaking to me. I love that she's got kind of a little bit, sometimes I get too close to my world and I'll give her snapshots and she's like, oh girl.
Well, I told her,
girl.
I was like, we're talking about victim victorious. This week might be a little preface
It
to
is. So I will monopolize the entire podcast today
Go
as
for
a
it.
therapy
This
session.
is your couch session.
No kidding.
I'm sure I'll have one in the future.
No, so this week having like a nurse leaving and who's been there for a while and not having, it's just hard. It's just hard no matter what.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm doing this wrong. I need to change. So I could have sat back and cried every single day and been a terror to my family and been pissed all day long. How dare she leave? What are we going to do? What's going to happen? Doesn't she know that this affects my life? I've got to work and I can't work and I can't do this. Or I can stop for just a hot second after I've cried in the shower, of course. And think about maybe the parameters that I've put and the expectations I've put on my life are not conducive of the lifestyle that I have.
Yeah.
And so reaching for normalcy, reaching to look like the next family. I'm already crying. You can't do that. Like I can't. My family doesn't look like that, and I can't keep reaching because it just sucks.
Yeah.
So I made a new picture.
But that took for you to pull yourself and be victorious in this, because it's been a hellish week for her.
Together. Yeah.
It's been a hellish week. But for you to become, not sit in the victim, not sit in how hard this is, because it can be hard and you can still be victorious. You said, I'm going to look intrinsically in what needs to change in me.
Yes,
which is going to ultimately change in my family. And for someone to live victorious, it has nothing to do about anybody else.
It's about the power you draw from within
to
shift your perspective.
And it doesn't matter what someone's done to you. Would you like an apology? Would you like, oh, that's not good. Yes. Okay. Would you like an apology? Would you like them to accept what they've done and change? Absolutely. But if you're going to sit and wait for that, you'll never be victorious. If you're going to sit and wait for someone else to change, you're never going to be victorious. In order to be victorious, it takes internal work to be victorious. And it takes the realization that no matter what that other person does, whether it's a nurse, your kid, a spouse, someone who's hurt you deeply and wrongly, like we all look at people, how did they forgive the murderer of their child? Like it really has nothing to do with their response. It has everything to do with what you're going to do internally, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Yep.
And you're only going to, personally, this is my personal opinion, you're only going to get there by knowing you're victorious in Christ first.
Yes.
And letting him carry you through it.
I think,
which is easier said than done.
Absolutely. And I think for me, it's almost like I'm such a control freak. To the extent of I'm not gonna let them control the way that I view my family.
So that's how you gain your victory.
I gain my victory by saying they're not in charge of how my family runs.
Yeah.
The norm, like the other moms and what other families do, is not in charge of how I run my, like that is not how I have to run my family. That is not how I have to live my life. Right. I don't have to. I mean, Allie doesn't have to go to school.
Yeah.
I can keep her home with me.
Yeah.
I don't have to. I mean, I do have to take her to the doctor, like that type of thing. But I mean, like, we don't have to live in this, like, just a quick synopsis. Like, we live where we live because we were close to support systems.
Right.
We made decisions based on being close to family and nursing staff that we had in the home.
Right.
And that it's almost freeing in a way that stripping that support system away, it sucks, but it's empowering at the same time.
Right.
Because then you take ownership of what's going on in your world, and you take ownership of how what the picture is going to look like. I have that same dishwasher. It's a good one.
I just got it
I
yesterday.
know you did. That's why I looked at it.
I'm very excited about it.
It looks good. You're going to like it. She's quiet.
Very quiet.
It sounds like a soothing ocean. Shh.
Oh, see, my other one didn't, so I'm going to be excited to run it.
Mm-hmm. So,
it's
squirrel. Side note. Well, I licked everything. So, basically, with that, looking at where we are in our life, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we aren't tied to these things anymore. It's a freeing feeling to be like, I can paint this picture any way that I want. I have the power and I have the control, and I can sit back and say, what do I want it to look like? And I think that only because I know my husband says this, like that scares him. And I know other people that would be like, oh, I don't want to.
But that's because it's easier to live in the safe space, even if it's not right and it doesn't feel good and it doesn't elicit a positive response. It's more comfortable to sit in those safe spaces.
I cannot stand sitting in that frustration, in that aggravation, and I've been sitting in it in a while because I thought, okay, this is
what it is. This is the way it's going to be. And I think a lot of us have done that.
Yeah,
we accept it.
And I'm like, you know what? It doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
I don't have to live like this.
No.
And I just don't have to live like this. And I've just made the choices to change that. And I think that's where the hang up comes for people, is the hard choices to not live like that anymore.
It's a perspective shift.
Yeah.
It's a complete perspective shift, and being willing to know that when you shift that perspective, you might not like what you see in yourself on the other side. And you might need to do some change. And a lot of us don't want to do that because it's hard. It's hard to say, you know what, I'm sucking it up in this area. I am, and again, I also like that you talked about not giving everyone else the power and control over you. When we live in a victim mentality, we're allowing the circumstance or the person to control us and to have power in our life. And it's time to say no more. And it takes bravery to do that. It takes courage to do that, because you're going to have to face hard things.
Yeah. Well,
whether it's within yourself or what's happened to you.
I find what helps to eliminate those, because it's, if you imagine, like, I visualize a framework in which we've created almost like a box that we live in.
Yeah.
And we live inside this box, and we live here, and we hate the box. And we're like, what the, am I living in this box for? What? And until you have that realization that you're the one in charge of what your box looks like, or how big it is, how small it is, even what shape it is,
or that you've created your box.
Or that you've created that box.
Yeah.
I think until you have that realization, you're always going to be, oh, this is happening to me, not I'm allowing this to happen. And
what I heard someone say once, and maybe it's been a quote that's been around for a while, that they're going to stop allowing life to happen to them, but they're going to happen to life. And I was like, that's a perspective shift. That's changing from victim to victory. I'm going to stop allowing life to happen to me. We can all sit in our pity parties about what's happened to us. We all have crappy crap in our stories. Crap. All of us. And some of us, you're going to say, my crap, you don't understand. My crap is so much worse and cuts so much deeper than your crap.
Oh, I'm going to talk about that.
It's going to affect, all of our crap affects us differently. And so I might not have the pain tolerance for what you have pain tolerance for. So don't tell me your crap is harder than my crap. We all have crap.
Well,
and we can sit in it. Do you want to sit in crap?
No.
That needs to be a quote. I don't want to sit in crap.
Because, I tell my son that. Like, this is another sidetrack, but I told him something. He did something really crappy to his little brother.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, that was really crappy. I go, it doesn't feel good to know that you did something crappy on purpose. He's like, no. And I go, sit in that. I go, just sit in your crap and own that.
And maybe we
apologize.
Maybe we need to sit in our crap for a little bit to be able to own it and just say, this is part. I created some of this stink.
So I will tell you, and I know 100% people have a harder time than I do. I see situations that I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how they would do it.
Right.
But even Megan has said, it's not my circus, that's not my chaos, that's not what God put me here to deal with. Yeah. But a lot of people will look at me in my life, and I just mentioned it this morning, as I'm like walking, there was a point where I'm pushing a wheelchair with a baby strapped to me, and a 4-year-old toddling alongside me at Costco. And people would look at me and they would be like,
they'd pity you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Hey, don't pity special needs parents.
No.
We don't like that.
No.
We don't like that at all.
I can see why you wouldn't like that.
I hate that. And so we get to the point where you don't look up at people, by the way, because people give you the
which is so
pity
sad.
eyes.
Yeah, which is so sad.
So people would say, oh, your hands are so full. And I finally
people would say that when I was pregnant but see, here we go. Our crap is the same. Because people would do that to me when I would carry Grady and have Jackson, and I was huge pregnant because they're a year apart. And they would say the same thing. Your hands are so full. How do you do it? How are you going to do it? And I was like, stop it.
I say full of blessings.
Right.
That's a good response.
That's what
I respond to them every time.
I like that.
Full of blessings, bitch. Just kidding. No, but what I have learned, because it is so easy, and I think a lot of people would agree that I have the card. I could sit down and be like,
for sure. You can play that victim
all
card
day long and be justified in it completely. But what I have learned a long time ago, and maybe it was, pain, I guess is, I don't want to say relative, but I want you to imagine a stick, like a measuring stick. I can't measure my pain to Megan's pain. Right. And by the way, pain is the same across the board. That dog's
we have a snoring dog. Sorry.
I guess it is relative, because her pain isn't different than my pain, even though the situation is different.
Pain is pain.
The pain is the same amount.
The hurt is the hurt.
Same quality, same amount, because it's still pain. And when you look at other people and you think, ugh, they've got it so easy. No, because they have painful things in their life too that it is just as equal to your pain, but it just is in a different outfit.
Yes, it's equal to your pain, but a different outfit. I like that, because it's easy for people to say, you don't understand. I can sit in this victim mentality because I've been wrong and hurt, and you've never felt that way. And it's like, I might not have experienced what you've experienced, but I've experienced this over here, and I know the depth and the darkness in your soul right now. And if we get trapped in a comparison game, that just spirals us deeper into the victim mentality even more.
That is a losing game right there. That comparison, looking at other people, and what's kind of terrible. There's great things about social media, but that is one of the most horrific things about it is we get to paint these perfect little pictures of our world, and people get it.
Again, it's a perspective, what we're perceiving of their life. And honestly, like I said, being victorious is completely independent of anybody else. Whether their life looks like sunshine and lollipops or it looks like a disaster show, your victory has nothing to do with her or with him or who wronged you or the situation that wronged you.
It's inside of you.
It's inside of you. It's being able to shift your perspective to say, you know what? This sucked in my life. I'm not going to let it have a hold on me or control me anymore. I'm going to find a way to make it good, because the Lord does say, right? Everything
is for good.
Is for good. Everything. That means the darkest of darks can be used for good. We had a pastor who went to jail. The pastor that married us, actually, he went to jail. Him and his father, they stole money from the private school that was attached to their church. They went to school. They went to jail for fraud. And there was a lot of people in the church that sat in that victim mentality. Well, this pastor led us and they wronged us, all those things. And we had to separate ourselves from it because that was too hard for me. I just couldn't deal. Yeah, they wronged us. But at the end of the day, you did what the Lord called you to do, giving your funds. What that person does with it is completely independent. However, so he went to jail. He actually got cancer in jail, was healed, has been out of jail for a very long time. He's still married to his wife, who didn't know that he was doing any of this. His story and his testimony on this side of the fence is 1,000,000 times stronger, in my opinion, than it was before, because now he has a connector. He has a story. He has crap that he sat in, that he did. And he could have said, oh, my life is ruined. I might as well just be a criminal the rest of my life, or whatever. I'm going to go into deep depression because no one's ever going to listen to me. Now he's a hospitality pastor. He has his connector. Everything, God takes everything for the good. So what do you have in your life? What crap are you sitting in that you can make right or good? You might not be able to make it right. And maybe that comes back to what you said at the very beginning. I was chasing the right. I was trying to make everything right. I was trying to look like the family next door.
I was chasing normalcy.
Yeah. And a lot of us are chasing the right or the justification or the normalcy, like feeling normal, like you go through a tragedy. My girlfriend just lost her brother last year, and chasing that, like, feeling of what it felt like before you lost that person, and you'll never have that again. So you got to chase what does our new normal look like, and this was a horrific trauma and tragedy. How can I take that and make it good?
And it doesn't have to be a trauma that makes you take inventory.
No, absolutely not. And I don't think I don't think you have to have a trauma to play victim.
No,
I think you can play victim outside of a trauma.
Absolutely.
Not that everything.
Oh, I lost the words I was going to say.
Sorry.
That's okay. Chasing normalcy, that was a big deal for us. But I think, now I lost it.
Sorry, well, I can go into this if you want.
Go into that because I lost it. It'll come back to me.
So I think a lot of times we try to become victorious on our own, and personally, that's not possible. I'm saying it's independent of your circumstance and your person, absolutely. I can't be victorious without Jesus.
No.
Because when I look at him and how he was wronged while he was here on earth, I look to him and I say, he was sent to the cross. He was wronged over and over again. He was betrayed by his best friend. People were accusing him of things he never did. He could have went and hid under a rock and been like, ministry's over, peace out. I'm a victim. Everyone's not listening to me, God. See ya. But he didn't. And so when I see what he went through, which is 100 million-fold what I'm going to experience, right? I can claim victory. Because I already know what the end of our story is, and it's victory. What the end of our Christian story is, it's victory. There's constant story after story in the Bible. The Bible is a hot mess, y'all. If you think it's boring, I don't know who you are. Because everyone in there is a hot mess. They're sleeping around. They're killing people.
Golly.
But I just think at the end of the day, there's victory. You're going to be victorious. You're going to be at peace. You're going to be in a life everlasting, and that brings me comfort, and that brings me strength in those moments when I feel like I can't carry on.
That's your eternal perspective, and I think that is something that isn't I don't know. I don't go to church a lot because our family's not normal, and So I don't know if they talk about that at church. Our old church didn't talk about it very much, but maybe it's just a known thing. But that eternal perspective is very important, even if you aren't living in like for us, we live in a situation where we're constantly connected to the human experience because we realize how quickly
because your daughter's life's on the line every single
day. And so and I told my husband this yesterday, I'm like, we've lost sight of the gift of that constant connection to the human experience. We're constantly connected to how fragile it is. And I think
which is a gift.
It is a gift. And it is a true gift, because then guess what? Things don't bother you that much.
Yeah.
Things don't bother you as much as they did. And your priorities shift.
Yes, you realize what is important. And you could look at Allie and you could play the victim. Like you said, you could play that card 100-fold. But the fact that you look at her and you see her life as a gift, you see that good. You see your child suffering every day, but yet you say, she is our reminder of how we need to live our lives. And that's a good thing.
Well, I think and I'm going to touch back to this. I'll come back to what I was going to say. But we can look back at our lives and all the things that were wronged, how we were wronged, or what tragedy happened. Can we not all look back and see God working in those?
Totally, because they shift you in a way that you either need to grow closer to Him, closer to the people around. Something needs to change in your life. And so He doesn't, and this is a question that Christians get a lot. If God is so good, why does He allow bad things to happen? And
I read that book, by the way.
Did you?
Yes,
There's a book?
did. Yeah, there's a book.
Oh, I'm not surprised. That would be a good title. That would be
Why do bad things
happen to good people? I know that book.
That's the book that turned me to Christ. Got me on he's a Jewish guy too. He's a Jewish author.
Well, I think we need to read a lot more from the Jewish community because they have an Eastern perspective for our Western culture. But anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Your dogs stink. They're farting.
I know, and they need baths.
No, I just meant they're farting. No, but my point is we forget, we lose touch of that. Like when we're in that moment.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like I'm going to give myself a little gold star because I feel like my turnaround time's a lot quicker. Like I may struggle for like a week.
Right.
And then I'm pulling out of it, and I can see the nurse that we had.
Right.
She brought things into our family that were gifts. And I'm thankful for those, and what is that doing?
It's trying to see, like, if that's me. I don't really need it. I was just going to get the Bible verses, but it never recognizes me.
She hates you.
Maybe I'll never be.
But, so I can look at each person that's come into our life, and I can see a gift. I can look at each tragedy, and I think everybody can.
Absolutely.
Every single client cancels or something like that. You're like, well, that just seemed to work out.
Right.
But we lose faith, and we lose touch of that when we're trying to hold on so tight and we're trying to control everything.
Yeah.
And I think we need to take a second and look back and just think about, man, everything's worked out so far. And that was one of the things I asked my dad years ago. I said, Dad, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give me? He's like, everything works out.
He's like,
everything works out okay.
My dad says that, and my sister-in-law's mother-in-law said, I wouldn't have worried about the things I worried about when I was younger.
Absolutely.
It's true. I think we just, we, at the end of the day and in the back of our mind, we know we really don't have control over a lot of things.
No, we don't.
The only thing we have control over is ourselves.
Our perspective.
And even at the end of the day, we don't have control over what's necessarily going to come our way in a day or what's going to happen to us in a day. Like, I had people over on Sunday. I didn't expect I almost cut my finger off. Like, that was not in my plans.
No.
But, I don't know where I was going with that. It's scary. It's scary to feel out of control. And so that's where I think it's easier for us to live in that victim world because, again, it's known. It's a known safe space. It's comfortable. And stepping outside of that is scary. And so many of us are living in fear. If I live victorious, is that giving that person who molested me power or victory or I did it, yay? No, I look at your life. If you are victorious in your life and you're walking strong and walking in whatever God has created you to do and be, to me, that's a punch in the face to the person who's wronged you or the situation that's wronged you.
I think the more that you sit in it and you're the victim victim of your circumstance, then, and I'm not saying it's everyone invited terrible things to happen.
Right.
But terrible things were going to happen because that is life. And I think
I think the fact that we're all surprised is
I can't believe this happened. Well,
and I don't think that we want to feel the feelings right now. We're in a state where suicide is rampant and divorce too, depression and anxiety. And I'm almost wondering, and I'm not trying to belittle it by any means. Please don't think I am. But I'm almost wondering if we have convinced ourselves that life is happy all the time because of social media and the world that we're in, right? What do? We mow the lawn before our kids so they don't have to feel anything. So it's much easier when something bad happens to us to live in a victim world because we never experienced feeling bad feelings.
And I think that for me, this is just, we are so disconnected from the human experience. Like as a society.
You were talking about that yesterday.
I didn't realize it so much until I tried to be a normal family.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, what a disservice that I've done. But I think I had to walk that path for a little bit just to figure that out. That's it's not normal for anyone. But the disconnect from our human experience, we do it through devices. We do it through it's just like a buffering.
And we're going to talk about that, I think, a little bit down the road.
Yes, and I think if you really think about how many times are you in a genuine moment with someone that you rush through, that you take your feelings and just push them down deep and don't feel those feelings in that moment. And so I made a promise to myself. I was like, I'm just gonna feel these feelings.
Yeah.
Like when the doctor gave me a hug.
Yeah.
I wanted to cry.
Yeah.
And I pulled away. And I'm like, why did I pull away from him?
Because it's easier to pull away than to sit in that feeling.
I don't want to do that anymore. So I want to cry now. I'll cry now. And I think it's more healthy, I think, for sure.
For sure.
And I think that it creates a more quality life. And it keeps
it's
the
richer,
things that are...
it's fuller.
Yes. And I think that has been my goal. And I want to say this. I know we're wrapping up soon, but it is not easy to do that. It is not easy to remind yourself to be in that moment.
That's living. That's the truth of living messy.
Yes. And it is a mental shift that I'm having to make. And it comes in all moments of the day. Driving my car, your mind will drift to, I gotta just take a breath. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Take a breath. It's gonna work out. Nobody is starved.
Right.
And nobody's gone naked. So that is something else that we play at our house because we try to keep the perspective where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So we play worst case scenario.
That's another thing to get yourself out of victim to victorious is answering the what ifs, which is so hard.
Really? I don't know why I find it fun, but I do because I think it gets comical.
Well, I think for me, the what ifs are really catastrophic. So what if something happens to my husband? What if something happens to my kids? What if all these
What do you think my what ifs are?
I don't know. I don't think it's fun to answer those questions.
I don't know.
To me, that's not fun.
What is worst case scenario? She passes away and she's in heaven. She's fully healed. What is the worst? You know what I mean? I guess that's
and I was just going to say, that's different because of Allie's predicament. No, it's not,
we all
are.
We're all going to die.
But see how quick it was for me to have that thought and to go to that place? I think that's true for all of us.
Yeah.
I just like that you said we have to walk the path, even the hard ones, to attain victory. That goes back to why does God allow bad things to happen? Because sometimes we have to feel those bad feelings in order to get to a better place.
Absolutely. You don't it's like saying I want to be the president, but you've never done anything in your whole life.
Right.
It's like you want to be at this end goal, but you know what? You got to learn and you got to walk in the muck and in the mire and you've got to it creates a confidence and it creates a foundation that you wouldn't have if you didn't.
Yeah.
And everyone's walk is different. Everyone's going to have their time.
Yeah.
Everybody, I remember I was talking with one of my husband's uncles one time and about a family member, and this was years and years ago, and he literally said, he's like, he needs something to happen to make him appreciate what he has. Yeah. And something will. Yeah. At some point something will, and not wishing that upon people.
No, but it does because there needs to be a shift. And you just came in and something shifted in your life. We don't have to talk about it on here because it's public, but something shifted in your life and it could have been viewed as a negative, but you're forced. But your hand was forced, right? In a way.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to be forced, and that doesn't feel good. When my husband and I were dating, he broke up with me And while we were broken up for those 8 months, he was saved.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel good.
Mm-mm.
I knew before we broke up that we needed to break up because we were not on the same trajectory. He didn't want to get married. I did the whole long Oprah with that. God forced the hand, and it felt like crap.
Yeah.
And I hated every second of it. But now my husband knows Jesus.
Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't have traded that for a second.
No, I would have gone back to all that pain and heartache.
So-
Absolutely, hands down.
People always look at me funny when I tell them this. I always say, people that, I don't know, maybe they're Christian, I don't know. But I would not, if I could say, oh, Allie will be completely healed and she'll be perfect here on earth, but you never would have known Jesus, I would choose the life that I have.
And I wonder if you would even look at it and say, I would have never known Allie as Allie. Because she's just so
It's
tremendous.
who she is.
Yeah.
And I would choose, and this is gonna get, women are gonna have a hard time with it. I would choose Jesus and having a relationship with Christ over having a fully healed child on this side.
That's an eternal perspective right there.
Yep.
You get it.
Yep. And that's
get
why
it.
doctors look at me funny. Like yesterday.
Yeah.
They
Well,
looked at me funny.
I think a lot of
and
people
I'm
will
like,
look at you funny. I think our prayer for you is that this encourages you and empowers you to find victory in your life.
you can change your circumstances. You can change your body. If I can change my circumstances,
Yeah.
you can change yours. And I think what we all miss is that we have the control. We have all the power and all the control.
We don't have control. You can't change Allie, but you
No,
have power
your
and control
mind,
to change your
your
mind and your
perspective,
perspective. And are you going to live in chains to how you've been wronged, or are you going to live free?
I love that.
Let's end on that.
I love that.
That's good.
All right.
Okay, let's do.
I better say that, motherfucker.
I know.
Better.
What do we want to call the one about what? The one
where
about
she cried.
victory?
No, I'm just kidding. No. See, that's part
We
of
can
me
do
trying
that,
to be attached to the human experience.
We're going to do that. The one where she cried.
No, don't say that.
I am. It's too
I
bad.
didn't cry. Oh.
It's too bad. I'll cry next
Okay.
week. What are you looking at?
I don't know. My face feels very squishy. I had a margarita yesterday, so it feels very much like this.
You
I
need,
feel very
you
much
need to be
like this.
hydrated?
I feel like I'm dehydrated. Like
You don't.
I was sweating
Maybe
today.
it's because you're sweating.
And it was
so
like
much.
salty.
I have.
All right.
You know what you need to drink is ice water with a little apple cider vinegar, a little bit of salt, and a squeeze of lemon. That'll get you back. Just
I thought she
saying.
was going to say like kombucha or something. I'm
No,
like,
no kombucha.
All right, kombucha. See?
Kombucha.
Kombucha.
Ay, ay, ay.
All right. Thank you guys.
Bye, girls.